success is not like it's not like a singular definition. Like there can be plenty of different things. It can be however you want it to be. And, maybe it's more important to focus on you, put your own oxygen mask on you know who you are. Like, you're always going to work hard. You're always going to be nice to people. Like, you don't like, but like, make sure you can do it in a way that you want, that makes sense for you.
Hey, Mile 40 fam. Are you craving a social life without the hangover? I'd encourage you to join Zero Proof. It's a lighthearted community diving into all things connection, lifestyle, and fun without the drinks. From wellness tips and product highlights to real life stories and every way to have a blast beyond the bar, Zero Proof has you covered. Be a part of the Zero Proof movement and take your social game up a notch. It's honestly one of my favorite newsletters. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you all. Check it out. And if you enjoy it, tell them that Mile 40 sent you over. Again, check out Zero Proof. Thank you for tuning in to the Mile 40 podcast. I am Bishoy Tadros, the author of Break Barriers and Audacious, both of which are sold on Amazon. And I invite you to join me as I engage with guests to discuss those bounce back moments that we encounter on our personal journey. Mile 40 is a forum to learn about how athletes, professionals, and leaders of all backgrounds stare down moments in life where the only option is to rise up. The Mile 40 podcast strives to remind listeners that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. I so very much appreciate it. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, check out the show notes. Pick up a copy of Audacious or Break Barriers. Use that discount code. I will sign it and send it personally myself. Today's guest is a special guest. I have Connor Jensen Murphy. He's an entrepreneur and former athlete from New Jersey with Danish heritage. He's co-founded multiple businesses, including QNTM Labs, Zero Proof, and Integrate Space. Connor played NCAA Division I lacrosse at Colgate and later captained the Danish national lacrosse team in 2 world championships. After graduating, he worked in San Francisco before settling in Copenhagen. He's been managing chronic migraine since 2018. And he's been named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list and recognized as an EY Entrepreneur of the Year. Connor, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bishoy. Super happy to be here. I know you had one of my good friends and one of my co-founders, Billy Murphy, on as well. And I know you know him personally as well. So I was super happy that you asked to have me on as well, and I appreciate that intro.
Of course. And the cool thing was, I found out a little while ago, you guys were roommates. I thought you guys were just friends. So you know each other very well. I'm excited to kind of uncover some of the parallels between you and Billy. And what I'm really excited about for this episode in particular is you come in with a unique perspective. The fact that you're living out in Copenhagen right now, that you've built these businesses, and that you have really succeeded on various fronts. And as we'll uncover today, you have a perspective that was shaped by your upbringing. So why don't we kind of talk a little bit about just life over the first 20 years of your life, growing up in New Jersey? Is there anything that we need to know about your childhood?
Sure. Yeah. And you might have some successes on the CV, but they'd say they're the tip of the iceberg. A lot of failures and ups and downs and loop-de-loops and roller coasters in between that. Leading up to that. But yeah, I'll kick it off. From the beginning at least. I grew up in New Jersey. I had 2 sisters, mom and dad. Dad's from American, from New Jersey. Mom's Danish. Moved over with work. Met my dad and started a family. I had a pretty wholesome family life. Super suburban. Went to public school. Played a lot of sports. Jersey Shore in the summer with the family. Denmark for the other half of the summer with the other half of the family. And we sure had ups and downs, but like in hindsight, like life was pretty good. Life was stable. We supported each other, and spent a lot of time at home, and kind of had this work hard, be nice to people type mentality, you could say.
Awesome. Talk to me a little bit about where things started to take off from you from a lacrosse perspective. I mean, look, playing Division One lacrosse on any front is impressive. I know you downplay it a little bit, but then taking it from your successes probably in high school to Colgate and ultimately playing on a national level.
I did a bunch. I played a lot of different sports: soccer, basketball, lacrosse. I surfed. I skated. I played guitar. It was kind of it was in and around the hoop of so many different things. Just kind of like like doing things. And then as years got older, kind of a lot of the community in the town I grew up in was focused around lacrosse. A lot of my friends were playing. I was playing, and then we just started to play a lot and get better. And then it kind of got clear that we a lot of us were good, and we were starting to have some develop and play well. We won a few state championships in high school, and I think like over half the class that I of my friends from high school ended up playing in college at some level as well. So it was kind of like it was like it was what we were doing. We were playing lacrosse, and we had a bunch of fun with it. It was all consuming. It went from a bunch of different sports in every different season to lacrosse in every different season in some shape or form. And we loved it. We had the bug. Um, and then as we were playing, started to see, okay, wow, there might be some potential to, particularly for myself, to play in college, play in the next level, Division One, Division Three. I don't know. I was like, play anywhere. I kind of wanted to go to like a better academic school as well. I wasn't really interested in a big state school. I kind of wanted a smaller field. And next thing I know, I mean, I wasn't super heavily recruited, but I was actually in Denmark at the time, like right before my senior year of high school, recruiting blackout period almost. It was like a week away, and then some coaches that had recruited me kind of elsewhere at D3 level and different schools ended up at Colgate, sent me a note and said they were still interested and love to have me out. I was like on a plane the next day, and I think I was committed to play there a week later or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, when it came to sports back then, what really drew you in? Was it the social aspect? Was it some of the more tactical facets of sports that really drew you in? Because I listened to you speak, and now you and I have been talking for a little bit before this call, and gotten to know you a little bit more. I'm kind of intrigued to know what really drove you back then around the world of sports.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pretty self motivated. I mean, I love love teams, love team sports, love playing with a bunch of people. Um, I just think it's fun. Yeah, I love getting out there. I love you can have your own kind of style and flow and kind of your own identity on the field or the court. Um, and then you're kind of that way you kind of work together with other teammates. It's just like being able to. I think I mentioned, I'm kind of can be like a little more analytical, a little more like, I can gotta get like, lost my thoughts. And it's like, when you're on the court, you're on the field, either in a game or a practice, it's like there's only one thing you can focus on. And that's that moment. And I think that, being forced and being like in a forced environment to do that, it's like something that I just love. It kind of forces me to kind of change my perspective and my state of mind.
How vocal were you in the locker rooms?
Um, would get more vocal later on in my career. I was usually pretty quiet. I was more of like a lead by example type. That's how you like that is how you lead. You lead by example, and then I don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna show up and work hard. And then the more locker rooms I was in, the more different teams I was on, the more I kind of thought, okay, well, maybe it's not just lead by example. Maybe leading by example is also, kind of being more of a mentor, like, player coach to those other people that are younger than you. And also, kind of making sure that other people are, doing the right things as well. And so kind of every step from, Pee Wee, early stages, high school, college, men's league, and then playing playing with the Danish national team, which is there's levels to it all. Um, but I've kind of felt more of like I felt more comfortable, and kind of have changed some perspectives and felt more of like a responsibility. I could say, like, to be more of like a vocal leader. At the more I've continued to play and develop.
Did you feel comfortable like throughout that trajectory, like settling into each new role? Whether it was, you know, going there to play because you're motivated, and then ultimately, being a role player who led by example to eventually being a mentor, right? Because I feel like when I think about the friends of mine who played both in high school and collegiately and beyond, if they were loud in high school, they carry that voice over to college. If they were quiet in high school, they carry that voice they carry that quietness with them, and they didn't really change their approach. But it sounds like you had a pretty natural change, and there's a method to the madness of my questioning. So let me ask you: did it
Yeah.
feel normal?
No, not at all. It super uncomfortable. Like, I always had a lot of imposter syndrome. Of course, a lot of people do, and I still do today as well in a lot of different aspects. Again, I was more like, you get what you get. You don't get upset, and smile and wave, work as hard as you can, put your head down, don't piss people off. That was like, for some reason, like, tied so tight to my core. I don't know why. Who knows? I'm sure someone could break down why, but that was like how I identified a lot. And so, like, kind of speaking out and kind of, I would say, like, voicing my opinions pretty hard, and like, or in the kind of like saying what I think. It was like, felt very uncomfortable. And it was always more comfortable just to hold that back. I'm not going to fuck up I'm not going to fuck up or piss people off or say the wrong thing if I don't say anything. And then when I do say something, I'm going to be able to make sure it's the right thing. You know what I mean? Or there's good intention behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. For context for the audience, this is our second time recording. We had some Wi-Fi issues before this, but I feel like I actually have learned a lot about you, Connor, over the last 45 minutes because you had mentioned to me that you would consider yourself introverted, but you do like carrying forth a social life and obviously having friends and connecting with your friends and all. And I'm really trying to connect the dots here between who you are socially on the athletic front, because I want to bridge that gap to what you've done professionally. And I'm on. If I'm being honest with you, man, I'm trying to figure you out. I'm trying to understand some of your key drivers and motivators, I know that you can't do what you've done. You can't accomplish what you've accomplished without um, without having an eye on the prize. And you had mentioned to me prior, and maybe this is where we're going to go next, right? Like, around the fact that you had seen a certain level of success in these different arenas, but there was always something kind of holding you back, right? And that was the idea of getting to that next level. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that played a role, whether it was in sport or in other facets of your life.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, what got me pretty far was also what held me back, and that was, work hard and do the right thing and follow the narrative, kind of at the expense of like doing what maybe I thought like was like what I really wanted to do, or what I thought, might be even better or something like that, because it might break the mold a little bit too much, or it might be a little too, um, a little too much. So I squashed a lot of, like, my things I like, my identity, some creativity, some stuff like that. Um, and I guess one aspect, the further I went along, the more I experienced, the more I started to like become aware of that aspect. Think like, all right, like, like I'm doing well, but like I'm not doing what, like, of course, like I'm self-motivated, ambitious. I want to do better. I feel like I owe it to myself. I feel like I owe it to, my parents. I owe it to, like, everything to strive to, keep getting better and keep doing more. Um, but whether it's like, being, I wasn't captain at Colgate. Like I would love to be, great. But like, I also didn't pursue it the way I think correctly, because I was happy to be part of the team, and I was happy to work as hard as I could and, kind of push the team forward. Um, and the more experience I had, like, thinking like, no, you know what, I could be doing these things if I have a different approach. Maybe if I try and, specifically pursue those a little bit more, or I be a little bit more of myself, or I kind of do things in a different manner. Uh, that's maybe it is okay to do that. I don't just have to, kind of, follow this, narrative that's been laid out. Um, and I think one thing that kind of bridged that from, kind of sports to professional, like it also carried along with, like, my academic, is what turned professional as well. Like I got a job in finance coming out of Colgate, investment banking, moved to California, San Francisco. That was what everyone was doing. That was like the best thing to do. So like, I'm going to pursue that. That was like something where I'm going to learn a lot. There's, I'm going to, economically it's pretty good, but I'm going to work hard, and it's going to give me a lot of options going forward. That's definitely the right thing to do. Right. And, I think, it is interesting as well. So sure, that's definitely what I should do. I'm going to work hard at it. That carried me through, San Francisco, and, enjoyed it, did well, and then ultimately started to burn out. But I would say the biggest catalyst, like, for me, in terms of, like, thinking like, all right, like, wait, like, maybe I can do things a little differently here, was, you mentioned earlier, like in 2018, when I was out in San Francisco, I was working in banking and started getting headaches. Like, had a headache one day, woke up with it, had it the next day, had it the day after, had it the week after, had it the month after. I'm like, this is kind of strange. Like, this ain't normal. Um, and, I mean, like, look, 6.5 years later, like, I still have daily tension headache, and I get, like, 15, 20 migraines, like migraine days a month. It's life changed. It's been a lot. And, you talk a lot about, in your book, and your story is, your mile 40 was like a pretty pivotal moment. And of course, there's a lot leading up to that. I've kind of had this, like, extended mile 40 of, like, coming to terms with, like, having a chronic illness, and, letting it be a part of my identity, and understanding, like, look, like, I mean, the first few years, like, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna push through this. Like, I'll die at my desk. I'm going to deal with this. I'll go to doctors and make sure everything's okay. And I'll try and, I'll try and change some things here and there, but, like, I'm still going to follow the narrative and work hard, put my head down, work hard, and do things the right way. Um, and ultimately I burned out big time. I moved to Denmark, still doing banking, was still working a lot, the crazy, 110-hour weeks. Um, and, like, I was just done. I couldn't, I couldn't, I was like, I was toast. I was like, look, like, this ain't worth it anymore. Like, it's not getting better. I'm really hurting every day. Like, I'm not happy. Like, I'm like progressing, but, like, at what cost? And then like, I was like, really, like, I was like, look, like, things are, on paper great, but, um, like, I think my bosses at the time, I was like, they're superstars, awesome. I'm like, they're like, wow, like, awesome guy, awesome, 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 super well to do, motivate the team, drive business. I just did not want to be them at all. I was like, and I think when that kind of clicked, when I, like, kind of, like, had that kind of, like, aha moment, that I was like, oh wait, like, this isn't like, I don't need to do this. Like, that, like, narrative that I've been following from playing sports, going to play at Colgate, going into banking, kind of all of a sudden, like, got flipped. And it took some, a chronic illness, and then, pushing through it for a few years, but finally, had this aha, like, kind of like my mile 40 moment, you could say, of thinking, look, like, you can kind of, success is not like it's not like a singular definition. Like you can, there can be plenty of different things. It can be however you want it to be. And, maybe it's more important to focus on you, put your own oxygen mask on and, you know who you are. Like you're always going to work hard. You're always going to be nice to people. Like you don't like, but like make sure you can do it in a way that you want and that makes sense for you.
Yeah. So it was a realization that it doesn't have to be this way. Ultimately, like you can take the pen and own the narrative, and it doesn't have to be the way that, whether it was society or your influences or whoever it was, told you that it had to be. And you're clearly writing your own script because I know that you have ties to Denmark and you're in Copenhagen now, and while it was a lot more natural of a move for you than it was for a lot of other people who would consider doing something like that, it's still, something that is perceived by a lot of other people as a very difficult transition to make. And you've done it successfully, and you're happy. And so I think I want to also let the audience in on a couple more biographical pieces of the story, so that way they really get to know you. So let's start with, what year did the migraine start?
January 2018.
So it's been 6 years now. Up
Yeah.
until that point, there was no issue.
No.
And have you seen doctors?
Yeah, been going to neurologists for since then.
And
Pretty healthy.
the
Apparently.
what's been the prognosis, essentially, just for education purposes?
Yeah, for educational purposes, I mean, I've gone to all the doctors, had all the tests, the scans. So remarkably, unremarkably or remarkably healthy, I guess, whichever way you look at it. Um, a lot of people have particularly chronic illnesses and headache and migraine as well. Like 20%, I think, the population have some shape or form or faction of it. Um, we don't really know. There's a million different triggers and things that can lead to it. And yeah, it's hard to say. And that's like and that's like the big part about, I think that was like a big part of also shaping, shaping or being more of a catalyst to kind of force me to think a little bit more about like who I am and what I want to do. Because there's there is no one cause. Like, oh, that's the cause. I can still be who I am. Like, no, I need to break down every little aspect of things like every little thing that I'm doing, and look at it and kind of think about it and understand its impact. Um, and if it's not making me better, it could be making me worse. So maybe let's not do that. So let's try and only focus on the things that are moving the needle in a good way, or are the right thing to do.
Got it. No, that's good context. Like, at the end of the day, like, we hear migraines a lot, like, but most people don't understand how it can, um, how it can hold you back for the longer term. Like, it's just not something a lot of people can relate to. And so I have to imagine that you've found ways and landscapes for your own zen, if you will, right? Like, you need that peace, because when it's your head, like when it's a pain in your head, everything stops, right? Like, it's not like a pain in another part of your body. I think when it's a pain, in your head,
Yeah.
nothing else matters. You can't think about anything else.
No, and it's tough. And like the thing is, like, there's the pounding migraine where it's like, oof, I gotta put myself to bed. Then there's also just like the daily, like this like daily tension headache, where it's like, just kind of there. So pressure, head kind of feels like, foggy, lethargy, brain, fatigue. And just like it kind of takes away your personality. You kind of feel dull, like you don't feel as engaged as you want to be. And so like you're just like you only got so much processing power and bandwidth every day, right? And if like a certain percentage of that is constantly being used thinking about how you're feeling, and what to do and how to mitigate it, like, it only leaves you so much. And so kind of identifying that and, kind of thinking about how to build protocols into your day and what really to focus on. If you only have 2 hours a day, what are you going to do? I think the first time we tried to have this podcast, I was KO'd with migraine. I had to reschedule or something like that. And so you just kind of like, it kind of, again, like, and this is a big thing as well. Like, I wouldn't say I was a perfectionist, like everything, like details before my headache, but like I was definitely afraid of failure, of like, saying the wrong thing or the consequences of not being, like not being right. Um, and when you have something, I mean, you got to be flexible. Your time's like you can't white knuckle everything, right? Like you got to go with the flow. It's all good. There's always, hopefully there's another day, like, and then you'll try your best that day and things will go on and, the earth keeps moving. And, as long as you're comfortable with who you are and you're approaching what you're doing, like, then you're good.
No, that's really, really an important call out. And I think like digging into this really lets us in on like where your perspective is coming from. And so I imagine that going through this yourself, there's been a new layer kind of opened on your end around how you empathize with people, how you better understand the things that other people are going through, because you yourself are a high performer, but you notice that, well, you've learned that there's obviously something that's well out of your control, that is going to limit you one way or the other. And I imagine that's played a role in your interactions with people socially, but also, again, we look at your resume, and you've accomplished certain things that I have to imagine were even harder for you than they would be for some other people who hadn't been going through dealing with these migraines. And so I want to speak to that a little bit. Can you just quickly summarize between LMNT, Zero Proof, and your business in London,
Yeah.
what the three businesses are and how they came to be? And you actually don't need to go through Zero Proof because we already spoke about Zero Proof with
Yeah.
Billy.
Yeah. All good. I'll be quick about it. So I was burnt out in banking in Denmark, realized I needed a lifestyle change, wanted to be more in control, but still am who I am. So I wanted to, do something fun and cool. Um, so met up with someone in the same, kind of same mindset, and we decided to start a business together. It was Quantum Labs, a quality control testing laboratory focused on, pharmaceutical medicines. Uh, how and why we chose that? It's a great question. It felt real, I guess, compared to like another like CPG or ecom type business. And we just come out of finance and we're like, all right, like this seems like a good opportunity. Like, there's a lot of, drugs being made and they all need to get tested by a contract laboratory. Like there's some pretty bumpy dynamics in that space. Like, we could disrupt that. We could do that. Ooh. And then we were both motivated. So we, me and my co-founder got to building that business, and, we had a lot of energy and worked well together. And, you mentioned empathy. It was like, look, like I just wanted to change. And, it was kind of like that. Like, look, we gotta have this, like, look, like this pact, like we're going to try our best. Like anywhere we get is better than we are now. So like, let's just keep moving. And so it helped us, get through things quicker. It's like, hey, take a decision. I don't know, but if you're confident, sure, we'll do it that way. And then, vice versa, a lot of reciprocity. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm not a pharmacist, I'm not a chemist, microbiologist, obviously, but you just try your best and you stay curious about things, keep asking questions. It's okay. It was like that. Again, like it's kind of like, it's okay to. I didn't know anything, so I was like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I asked a dumb question or, you know, oh, what's the worst going to happen? You're going to send me back to banking? Oh shit. So it just like opened up the doors to realize that, look, like just like just define what you want to do, go do it, ask questions, put a smile on your face, be nice to people, hear what's going, and just do it. So yeah, so we that was like 2020 to 2024. We built up that laboratory. Um, had a bunch of partnerships with like, like multi-billion-dollar companies like Agilent, Thermo Fisher, Metro, like Mettler Toledo, on the equipment side of things. Grew the team to like 30. raised some money, built like 10,000 square feet of lab space, got it pharmaceutically certified. And then earlier this year, me and my co-founder stepped out of the business, hired a professional CEO to run that, as it kind of transitioned from development to commercial, like the building of everything and putting everything together. It was now done, certified, and now it was more just farm operations, go talk to go sell to clients and everything. And so it made more for us. It made more sense to have a more streamlined pharma executive and professional take the reins from there and explore some new opportunities.
You you downplayed this earlier. Like I see you kind of smirking on the other side of it. You downplayed this earlier, and then you talk about some of um, the challenges that you've had. Especially when you think about your sports career and you think about that next level and trying to figure out how to tap in there. Just hearing you talk about this, you make it sound so easy. Like I don't think you realize like what you did is pretty phenomenal, and really hard to do. And kudos to you, my man, because like what you did was super impressive there. Scaling a company to that size, being able to bring in that many stakeholders to fundraise, and to be able to position it the way that it was positioned. You shouldn't be downplaying it, man. You should be very proud of yourself. I mean, that's super, super impressive.
I appreciate that, and I guess it's more just that it feels like I'm just very much of the mind like if I can do it, like anyone anyone can do it if they just kind of choose to, you know what I mean, and choose to kind of have that you're again like my mile 40 moment, right? Like has that my journey on my mile 40 and through my mile 40 has been like, look, your perspective's your choice. Like you can choose to be happy, you can choose to be sad, you can choose to accept what you got going on and put a smile on your face, and then sit on the couch if you need to, or go to your desk if you need to, or go take a walk if you need to, or hang out with friends. It's like you can choose to do those actions, and then you can also choose to be how you feel about those actions. Like, are you okay? Maybe you need to sit on the couch one night. And be okay with that. Like that took me a long time to figure out. Like I was down in the dumps a lot, when I'd have to drag myself, get dragged out of the office and go sleep off a migraine or something like that. I wasn't in a good spot, but like it takes reps. It takes like a long time to like figure out. Wait, like actually maybe it's all right. You're doing the best you can. Like it's cool. Chill on the couch, recharge. And I think it's like it's been. When I talk about it, it's just because it's just like I've been doing it so much, and going through so much that you kind of change your perspective and realize like, look, it's like you have this choice. Like you don't have to stress about it. So you keep doing it.
Yeah. I love hearing you talk about this because I relate to you on this front, right? Like the idea of, like when you do it, like it's not that hard. Like, you've built a business, you scaled it, you got it to the level that you got it, and you're like, oh yeah, if I could do it, anyone can do it. And similarly on my front, I come across this a lot where it's like doing any of the things that I did, I didn't perceive it as being like, if I could do it, anyone can do it. There's absolutely nothing. Like I start off almost every speaking engagement by like leveling with the room around like, there's absolutely nothing special here. I don't think I'm smarter than anyone. I don't think I'm, better looking than anyone. I don't think that I have anything that really like distinguishes me, maybe beyond the fact that I have this perspective through lived experience of like knowing how to tackle adverse circumstances, through lived experience. But like most people can't draw a parallel between that and like writing a book. It's like, or drawing a parallel between that and, building this podcast or running marathons. But that's really the only experience that I had. And so like, I find myself a lot of times being like, look, if I could do this, you could. It's really not that hard. Like, and so I relate to you on that front because I'm like, I didn't think I did anything special. And I think hearing you say that is is eye-opening for me, because I look at what you did and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I could do that, to be honest, and so you made me kind of self-reflect on myself, because I find myself thinking like that all the time. And I wonder, it makes me wonder more about like how the human brain works around the various things that humans have accomplished throughout all time. Like, you think about someone like Elon Musk, for instance. Do you think he thinks like anyone can do what he's done?
I bet you he doesn't think about it. I bet you he's like, I don't really care what people think about me. I like these things. I have these thoughts. I'm going to act on them. And then he, like people say this stuff, and then he like fires off stream of conscious how he feels about it, and then keeps moving.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's fascinating to me, and I feel like that's a topic on its own that I could delve into a whole podcast about.
No doubt.
But I want to thank you for giving me that perspective, because yeah, like I personally myself, I'm amazed, and I'm super proud of what you've accomplished, and the way with which you've led. Says a lot about you with regards to that. I want to specifically, you mentioned some of the darker moments, right? You talk about having to handle a migraine as it came on, probably during a period of time where you were in build mode, for instance, and you had to step aside. Aside from managing the pain of the migraine, talk to me about the voice inside your head. Talk to me about your mentality. Talk to me about your perseverance, and what motivated you to keep powering through despite knowing you had this condition that was going to keep coming back.
Yeah, again, like I'm talking from perspective and experience, like lived experience now. But like things have been tough. There's been definitely been a lot of dark moments and a lot of down moments and a lot of a lot of stuff like that. Stories are endless almost. Um, I think mainly is like so like I'm kind of like a self motivated person. Like I just like I kind of just need to like do like I do things for myself. Like to prove like of course I like others expectations motivate me as well. But like at the end of the day, I'm like, I really want to do that. And if I didn't do it, I'm like, damn, like you couldn't do it. Like, or can you still do it? Like you can't, you can do it. Like you don't have to go. Like, do you really need to go sleep? Like, or do you really need to like go chill? Like, shouldn't you be like, if you think this is what you want to do, or you told yourself this is what you're going to do, like, well, shouldn't you be doing all this other stuff that's going to get you there instead of all this other stuff that's not going to get you there? Um, and that voice is just nonstop. I mean, that voice never stops. Which is a pro and a con, right? Because it's like it's good fuel to like to work and like and do things, but it's also kind of it has it's like tunnel vision for specifically those things. It's not like a right or wrong. It's like not a right or wrong, but it's just a narrow focus. And so you kind of miss out or lose out on a lot of stuff or a lot of perspective, a lot of other things you could be doing that also could be very get super meaningful or have a lot of value. But yeah, like my main motivator was like gotta just myself. I wanted to do stuff. I wanted to. I just like the thought of like self not doing it, yeah, and like having to live with myself and like and being like shit, like kind of that like again it's a kind of like a fear of failure in a bit in a way like of my like myself to myself like it's like unsettling. You know what I mean? I kind of, and then it's I kind of feel like you like I always kind of feel like I like you know kind of owe it owe it to people owe it to people to life hasn't been that hard. I owe it to people to shouldn't I work hard? I mean I don't know. It's like this weird complex going on in my head, but and then if you surround yourself with people as well, of course that help pull you in the right direction. That's just helps you like helps and talk about help getting you through down periods like being isolated that's how you get stuck. It's everyone gets down, but if you stay down, that's particularly for me that my extended periods of being down is usually when I was pretty isolated. Um, and then it's whenever you're around people or get yourself, get people to help you up. That's the best way to keep moving.
Yeah. What are some of your focuses now? What are some of the things that you're working on today?
Like you mentioned, working on zero proof, alcohol free lifestyle, a kind of media company and email newsletter. Also, co-founder of Integrate Space, a small real estate platform in London that connects charities to commercial real estate owners that have vacant units. It's based in London, so like commercial real estate office building has a few empty office spaces. We help place charities in those office spaces. Charities get like the low to no cost workspace, and then the commercial real estate owner, we put together like a social impact report for them on the amount of value that they drive by that unit standing empty anyway. Um, almost just said that in Danish for some reason. That unit standing empty anyway. This is the from all this money you're saving by having this charity office here. This is the a quantifiable based on a certain methodology. This is a quantifiable amount of impact that you've created. So that's a fun little business. And then also kind of stealth mode, but working on building a like a sauna and cold guided sauna and cold plunge company in London as well, kind of like boutique
That's
studio.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
and I'll
amazing.
say
So
it
it
feels.
sounds. You go
I
ahead.
was just saying, it feels. I'll cut. I think I'll jump ahead, but it feels kind of random. But the pharma lab was like a step into like kind of trying to have more control over my life, but it was I'm not a pharmacist. Again, it wasn't like anything I really burned for, and it was like venture, right? Like on a growth timeline, big capex, big investment, a lot of heavy regulated industry, a lot of employees, technical hierarchical work structure. Hard, it was not. Personally, I was not doing. I was not doing well. It wasn't helping the headaches by any means. And so my coming out of that business, my intent philosophy, kind of checklist I've been working towards is all right. Like, how can I do things? How can I be like intentful about the next things I'm working on? Like, what am I interested in? Who specifically do I want to be working with day in and day out? What do I want to be like on personal development? Like, what aspects of like what do I want to be doing day to day? What tools do I want to be learning more about? I wanted to learn more about how to. I was just in pharma. I want to be an internet entrepreneur. I want to learn more about media products and engaging directly with my audience. Boom, there we go. Alcohol free media company with Billy. And so that's kind of what's led me to, that's like my philosophy at the moment. That's kind of what has led me. That's been like the red thread across these various projects.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out because that was going to be my next comment. Was it sounds like you're being really intentional now around where your energy is going, and I think you've built up a platform for yourself where you now have that capability, and I think that is a really nice way to summarize like your story, right? Like you've kind of worked through your own mental barriers, if you will, growing up through sports and kind of the life that you lived. Ultimately, coming across this chronic illness, which could have been a major setback for you, but you framed it in a way where you realized it was the card that you were dealt, the hand that you were dealt, and you broke it down and persevered through it in a way that was very tactical. When you think about it, like you understood, or you came to understand how to handle it, and not let it get in the way of your bigger goal. You accomplished the bigger goal, and it gave you the perspective around what is really important, and what is important to you. And that's where you are today. I think, Connor, I think it's super interesting and really cool. And I'm honestly like so privileged that to be able to have this conversation, because now that we've been talking for a while, I've come I feel like I've come to know you a lot better and come to understand what your drivers are. And it's so cool to see you in all these different spaces, despite the fact that you're dealing with this condition. But because you're intentional about it, your illness is not going to hold you back. And I think
Yeah.
it takes a special kind of mind to get there. Like, and that's what I see in you. Uh,
Yeah.
for a lot of people,
I
go ahead.
appreciate that. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's easy to put a smile and talk about it now, but
I'm sure it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but I do want to call out, there's a lot of people who could have been dealt the hand that you've been dealt, and that could have been the only thing they were thinking about. And it could have been a woe is me attitude. And it could have been, I'm never going to be able to accomplish any of the things that I want to accomplish because this is always going to show up. And so, yeah, I mean, look, you and I both know, like, the adversity doesn't go away. It's going to continue to show up. You're going to continue to get knocked down. It's going to get harder and harder to get back up. So while you're doing it, you might as well be serving a bigger purpose for yourself. And so, that's kind of the way that I see it. As we round things out here, when you think back to your journey personally, and you think about the key tenors that have driven you through the past decade or so, talk to us a little bit about what you would want a listener from today, or someone who learns about you from a distance to drive from your story, and some of the key drivers for you.
yeah, I mean, I think the first one that I always think of now is like, again, like being able to sit here with you on the podcast, like reciprocity. Like, I think what you do is great. I'm like, shit, like, wow, if I could only do that, like, you're having written books, build a following, podcasts over 100 episodes, all this stuff. I sit here like, I'm like, damn it, the show is killing it. Like, it's awesome. And I think I would want other people to think like, look, like, we're all people, like, and everyone's kind of in the same boat. Like, like, you can do it too. Like, there's really, like, even the people that, like, you might be idolizing or thinking like, damn, like, they must be some kind of superhuman. Like, they don't got their shit together. Like, everyone's kind of figuring it out and just kind of treading water and trying to do their best. Like, there's no like, oh, you can't do that until you get there. It's like, no, like everyone got there by like doing one step at a time. And like, that's actually how you get there. It's just keep taking like step by step.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's no better way to put it. I think that's really what it comes down to. And a theme that comes on this show all the time is just like the importance of celebrating those small wins. And it's like anything in life. It's not about the destination as much as it is about, like, exactly what you said, putting one foot in front of the other, continuing to show up day in and day out, understanding that even if you don't know where the road may lead, right now, it's not about that finish line. It's just about what's right in front of you. And Connor, I think that's honestly the ultimate way to close out today's episode. I'm incredibly grateful for you, for your time, for your vulnerability, and for your messaging. I think that your condition is one that is really reflective of a unique circumstance where you're going to be dealing with this for, you don't know how long, perhaps forever. And you've framed a mindset to help you really hone in on what's important. So I want to say thanks for coming on, and thanks for giving us the time today.
Yeah. And hey, look, right back at you. Thank you for having me. And like, it's people like you as well that, that literally fire me up and give me motivation, because I see all the stuff you've done, and then, like, I see like your past experiences and how you're getting through stuff. And I'm like, man, like, wow, like, I'm good. Like, let's like, I should be doing more. Like, look at Bishoy, crap. So I really appreciate you having me on the platform here. Super happy to be involved, and I'm sure we'll be talking in the future again as well.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode of the Mile 40 podcast, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, and share the word. Thank you for being a part of the Mile 40 family. And let's unite in showing the world that comebacks are always greater than setbacks.